Almost got it off all in one go. So when I first brought this truck home, it was meant to be more than just another project. It was supposed to carry the garage, the name of the garage. It's our first real true project on here. Yes, we've had John Deere, we've had a couple Volkswagens, we've had motorcycles, we've even had a couple Jeeps, I think. But we never had something that I would consider as a true original classic pulled out of some field or backyard that had sat in for 23 some years and then making it on the road again. Something I didn't know anything about. These other projects, I kind of had them around for a little bit, or they were, you know, gotten from a guy I knew. But this right here was truly something that I didn't know anything on. Luckily, I just so happened to be its second owner, and I was able to get a lot of the stories behind what this truck had been through from the previous owner. And so, but even then, still didn't get all the stories, because there is some stuff I'm going to show you on the top of the truck that I think kind of tells some of the story of what this truck had gone through. And so a restoration process had been started on this truck prior to the garage, and we're finishing it. We're in the process of finishing it, but we're also in the process of creating something great here. And this truck is part of that. And so are you. You're a big part of it. Just watching these videos, commenting on them, liking them, subscribing to the channel, watching the videos to the very end, because you never know what might be at the very end of the videos. It's always something, you know. Just supporting the channel has made everything that you're seeing here possible. I mean, if you go back and look at the video that says 2 years old, the reason why that video says 2 years old is I had started a video and I posted it, and then I ran out of time. I had to go work. Well, going to work, doing that. And then started getting more videos posted again, and that was when I had pulled the trigger and said, if I don't do it now, then I never will. And that was the beginning of what you see here. So I think we've come a long way over the past year with this truck, and I think minus 3/4 of a year, you could say that this is the first real year on the platform. And so I think it's cool. I can't wait to continue forward on this kind of stuff, and you're watching a journey on how to build a business on a budget. So I need to stop talking because we got a lot of work still to do, and I'll keep talking your ear off. So let's go ahead and get the cab taped off, get the top painted, and we'll determine what we're doing here. Now that I've got the cab all masked off and we're technically ready to start putting down some primer, I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about what I found on the top of the truck. Now, when I was sanding, I had come across all these little pock marks, and they look like this. And a lot of times, that right there is from something being welded to the surface, whatever metal surface you're working on, to pound out a dent. You're probably wondering, oh, how is welding something like that? How is welding something on it going to get a dent out? Well, they would weld a nail or something to it that would stick out, and then put something like a slide hammer on it, something that they could fasten onto that stud, and then hammer out the dent. And as you can see, there's a lot of those on top of this cab, which means that whatever happened in the past happened good. Like, it was a good hard hit. So my guess is that they used to haul this thing or use this thing to haul hay, and so my guess is a hay bale fell off and dented the crap out of the cab, or a tree branch fell on it, or who knows, kids were using it as a jungle gym and dented the cab. I don't know, but all I know is there's all that Bondo right there in that back corner, and also on the cab corner on the passenger side. So that kind of tells us that this thing definitely was a project in the making. Somebody had started a restoration process on this truck but never finished it, but they were doing it the right way, which means what we're currently doing is just finishing the job. And luckily, we don't have to take those dents out. That hard part's already been done for us. But anyway, I just wanted to get that out there. That was my summarization, my thought process on that. Put down in the comments below what you think that's from, why that's there, what had happened. But, oh, and the other thing is it doesn't show through on the inside of the cab because these are 2 layers. You've got the outer layer, this layer here, and then on the inside of the cab there's another layer. So there's like a gap in between the outer and the inner. And so you can't get a hammer in there, which is why you would have to do it this way. But there's no evidence, like if the dent is good enough, it will go all the way through, right? It'll fill that void and dent through into the other side, but it's not there. So either the space there is quite substantial or the dent wasn't that bad and they just did this. I don't know, but that's just what I can surmise from what I see here. And there is a whole lot of them. So whatever happened, it was a good enough hit, but whatever it is, they did a good job. So anyway, let's go ahead and get that primer down so we can get some blue on. So it got colder last night, which means our primer didn't completely cure and is still tacky to the touch. So we won't be able to do any sanding on it and we won't be able to put any blue paint down yet, but we can move on to doing work on the engine. When I first brought this truck home, it had quite a bit of a leak and it still does. So I had gone through here and kind of did some looking around and I figured it was either a rear main seal or the front main seal, something big and expensive, which with these old trucks, you never know. But after I got all of the grime and grease and dirt on oil buildup, the mixture of all of it, road grime, whatever, off of the engine, I was able to see where a possible source of this leak was coming from, which was the valve cover gaskets. It was just getting wet all around where the valve covers are and just like it was actively wet. And so I was like, well, that is probably a good indicator of where our oil leak is coming from. So I've got brand new valve cover gaskets sitting on the bench and we're gonna take these old valve covers off, clean them up, probably end up painting them because they look a little bit pooey. I mean, take a look at that. I mean, what in the heck? Those are just, they don't look good. So we're gonna clean those, get them repainted, but where it says Chevrolet on the valve cover, that raised metal, I want to paint blue. The same blue that we did here on the passenger side to help tie in the outside color onto the engine itself instead of just the engine bay. I might go ahead and repaint this air filter housing just because this was more of an accident than a goal. I had wanted to paint it black with a blue ring and, well, as you can see, it did not do what I wanted it to do. I wasn't patient enough. But anyway, let's go ahead and get these valve covers taken off, see what we're working with underneath those valve covers, see how the rocker arms look, and I don't know, we'll go from there. Okay, we've got those out. Let's try to get this off carefully. Okay. Trying to get the gasket to not do what it just did. Those actually don't look too bad. So what I was trying not to do was to break the... We don't want any of this or any of the junk that it's sitting on to go down inside, but I definitely say this is where a leak was. You can see right here where it's all wet underneath that. I wanted to say this was a rubber gasket, but this is just a regular cork gasket. So go ahead and carefully pick off the rest of the cork, and then we'll take the other side off. Hopefully we get as lucky with this one as we did with the other one. Almost got it off all in one go. There we are. Disassembled. So I want to show you why I think it was the valve covers leaking. So got lucky getting these valve covers off, that none of this was super stuck on there to where we had to get a scraper to scrape it off. But this section right here is the sealing surface on the head, and this smooth surface on the back is the sealing surface on these valve covers. Both sides are wet with oil, which would tell me that that is a big culprit for our major leak that we've been having on this truck. I'm hoping, like I said, I'm hoping that this right here is going to remedy the problem, and then maybe, crossing our fingers, the engine won't leak. But with how crumbly all this is, I'm going to definitely say that maybe, I don't want to stretch it too far, but these could be the original valve cover gaskets, because they even have green mold on them. Yikes. They're just cork, but it is hard and crumbly, like I said, the outside of a brownie, you know? The corner, you know the corner piece, the corner brownie piece? The brownie corner? How it's like the hardest part and it's super crumbly? That's what these are. But these things right here need a lot of cleaning. They're just covered in gunk. This gunk on the back of this was what the entire motor looked like. Thicker than that, obviously. This is the back of the valve cover, but the entire motor looked like that. So it's been doing this leaking thing for quite a while. And honestly, inside, it was not nearly as bad as I thought it was gonna be. I figured we were gonna have some serious gunk buildup, but when we first fired it up a year ago, we didn't know that the fuel pump was shot. So when we turned it over, the fuel pump was pumping gas into the crankcase, which then went through the rest of the motor, cleaning everything up. So that's probably why it's not super gunky. There's evidence here that it was super gunky, but it's not nearly as bad as I was anticipating, which is good. So we'll go ahead and get these cleaned up. We'll get them painted, hopefully get that Chevrolet painted with the blue like I was saying, and then we'll set them down and make sure that they're not warped, because if they're warped, then they're not gonna seal correctly. And the other thing, if these pieces here are warped, after over tightening, it doesn't want to seal right either. But there are ways we can remedy that. We'll explore that later on. Right now, let's just go ahead and get these to the parts washer and make them shine. These are looking better already, just from cleaning off all that old paint. And did you see that the original paint was still there underneath the black? Unfortunately, there wasn't enough of it to just take the old black off and leave the original color. And I couldn't find the original color when I went out to go get some paint for these. So we'll be painting them back to black, and I've changed my mind on painting the Chevrolet blue. Because this is not high heat paint, the blue, and these valve covers do get a little bit warm, and for the sake of time, I'm just gonna leave the Chevrolet this silver metal. That's it. I can either tape it off and then we can paint it and take the tape off, or I can sand through it. But in any case, we can paint these now, get the gaskets put on and put these valve covers back on, and hopefully paint the top of the truck. It's still pretty cold. It's just now got above 50 in the garage. It's really cold outside. We had a freeze last night, so I don't know, we'll see. I think that's still kind of tacky up there, but I don't know, maybe it'll be just fine. We'll find out. But in any case, let's get these painted so these can be drying and I can go and sand the top of the truck and hopefully get it painted. One year. That's how long it's been since this old truck came back to life after 23 years of silence. What once sat forgotten and covered in dust now rolls down the road again. It may not be perfect, but it's alive. Every late night in the garage, every scraped knuckle, every small victory, they've all brought this Chevy closer to what it's meant to be. A reminder that revival doesn't happen all at once. It happens one turn of the wrench at a time. Because the Garage R&R has never been about perfection. It's about bringing to life what was left behind and keeping that spark alive. There are more projects waiting, more stories to tell, and more engines yet to wake. This is only the beginning, and I'll see you in the next video.